कन्याकुमारी धीमहि तन्नो दुर्गे प्रचोदयात्। ॐ कात्यायनाय विद्महे कन्याकुमारी धीमहि तन्नो दुर्गे प्रचोदयात्। ॐ कात्यायनाय विद्महे कन्याकुमारी धीमहि तन्नो दुर्गे प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
गोविंद रमा जय जय गोपाल रमा। गोविंद रमा जय जय गोपाल रमा। केशव रमा जय जय माधव रमा। केशव रमा जय जय माधव रमा। गोविंद रमा जय जय गोपाल रमा। गोविंद
बसो मोरे नगरी, बसो मोरे नगरी, बसो मोरे नगरी, बसो मोरे नगरी। बोला बाबा बसो मोरे नगरी, बोला बाबा बसो मोरे नगरी, बोला बाबा बसो मोरे नगरी, बसो मोरे नगरी, बसो मोरे नगरी, बसो मोरे नगरी। बोला बाबा बसो मोरे नगरी, बोला बाबा। तुम्हारे दिल को मेरा मंगानी, तुम्हारे दिल को मेरा मंगानी। तुमको पिला दो दूर बड़ी गगरी। बोला बाबा बसो मोरी नगरी, बसो मोरी नगरी, बसो मोरी नगरी, बसो मोरी नगरी। बोला बाबा बसो मोरी नगरी, बोला बाबा।
प्रेम से बोलिए सीतापति रामचंद्र की जय. Sitaram devotees, Shubh Swagatam, a very special welcome to you tonight to this sixth night of this 7 nights Ramayan Yagna. And tonight, before we actually get into our devotions, we call upon Randy, who will extend an official welcome to us on behalf of the members of the organizing committee of this Yagna here.
Thank you, Vyas Pundit Rajendra Maharaj. Sitaram, Sairam, Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a sweet sadness I'm greeting you tonight because as we approach the 7th, we're on the 6th. It is such a joyous occasion to be part of this Yagna, and yet knowing it is coming to an end is adding a little bit of sorrow to my heart. Tonight, I have another 3rd generation Bluebirds Sports and Cultural Organization member to actually bring greetings and share what is her experience here in Bluebirds Sports and Cultural Organization. So, I would like to introduce you to another rosebud. Last night we had one, tonight we're having another. And she is Shania Bihari. Shania?
Sitaram devotees, my name is Shania, and on behalf of our entire family at Bluebird Sport and Culture Organization, I would like to wholeheartedly welcome you to our 6th night of our 37th annual Yagna. My humble pranams to our Vyas Pundit Rajendra Maharaj, our Bedi Pundit, Pundit Vasudev Maharaj, their loving family and group. Tonight, I would like to share my experience growing up in our organization. I live in a very humble community where everyone works hard and farming is in abundance. At a young age, I started with Balvihar every Sunday morning at 8 a.m., learning bhajans, mantras, chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and many other stories of our great books. Most importantly, instilled in me is the moral and values that I have learned and will continue to grow with me. Every year, for the July-August vacation, I am excited and always looking forward to the Ramlila camp. This is where I have learned to make all the beautiful equipments used in our annual Ramlila event. I love sports, badminton and tennis, so living next to our Bluebirds Community Complex is the cherry on top. I take advantage of learning, playing, and having great fun with other members of our group and from our community. I look forward to growing more into our culture and tradition and having a homogeneous balance between our spiritual and academic studies. Just like my grandparents and other members of our family, I am proud to be a member of our group. Thank you and Sitaram.
I think we need another healthy round of applause for this young lady because, as I said, standing here and addressing an audience, even myself, a grown person, I feel a little bit nervous. So, really great job to Shania, and we look forward to each and every one of you being part of the Bluebird Sports and Cultural Organization. I know I had extended a universal invitation earlier at one of the earlier nights, and I would like to reiterate that. Again, another universal invitation. Whenever you hear a Bluebird Sports and Cultural Organization event, more than likely it's going to be taking right here at our community complex. This is a warm and cordial invitation to any and everyone of all religion, faith, gender, it doesn't matter. Here at Bluebird, we give you a very warm welcome always. So looking forward to your continued presence, and with that, I hand you over to Vyas for tonight's discourse.
And thank you, Randy and Shania, for those very warm welcome speeches. And I'm always encouraged and always very happy, my dear friends, when we see that transfer, the younger members of the organization stepping forward and, stepping up to the podium, stepping up to the mic, and of course, expressing that great happiness and that great delight of being part of this wonderful organization. And especially when it's a second and third generation, we know that there is a transfer of that knowledge and that value system and that enthusiasm, my dear friends, that will take this Bluebirds Sports and Cultural Group well into the future. At this point in time, Khara ho jaye, let us all stand as we join together in the Ramayan Arati. Varnanam artha sanghanam Rasanam chandasamapi Mangalanam chakartaru Vande Mani Vinayako Arati ki jai Shri Raghuvar ki Dasarath Nandan Sita Var ki Arati ki jai अंतरयामी मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम स्वामी राम नमामि राम नमामि करुणा करती आरती की जय जगपति सुरपति दीन दयाला दुख भय भंजन हे सुख पाला जगपति सुरपति दीन दयाला दुख भय भंजन हे सुख पाला हे जगवंदित रघुवर लाला सच चित आनंद शिव सुंदर की आरती की जय आरती की जय श्री रघुवर की दशरथ नंदन सीता वर की आरती की जय संग विराजे जानकी माई तारे संग में तीनों भाई संग विराजे जानकी माई तारे संग में तीनों भाई अद्भुत शोभा वर्णि न जाई विधाता प्रभु सुखवर की आरती की जय आरती की जय श्री रघुवर की दशरथ नंदन सीता वर की आरती की जय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय Let us all sing together, devotees, as we clap our hands and receive Bhagwan's blessings. Om Namo Narayana. Hari Hari Om Narayana.
Hari 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 Om Narayana.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Hari Om Namo Narayanaya. Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi. Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi.
Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi.
Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi.
Jagadamba Devi, Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi.
Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi, Jai 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 Jagadamba Devi. प्रेम से बोले श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, श्री वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय, उड़ीसा जगन्नाथ की जय, बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय, सियापति रामचंद्र की जय। आसन लीजिए, kindly be seated devotees. Officiating Pujari Pandit Vasudev Maharaj, Pandit Vinayak Maharaj, Pandit Vinayak Prasad, Shrotagan, Bhaktajan, devotees of God. Once again tonight, on behalf of the management committee here at the Bluebird Sports and Cultural Center, let me extend to you a very special welcome to this sixth night of this 7 nights Ramayan Yagna. On Sunday night, of course, we embarked upon a very special journey throughout the pages of Ramcharitmanas, and of course we have arrived in Lavakush Kand, exploring the divine charita of Bhagavan Sri Ramchandra in this final chapter, this final Kand of Ramayan Katha. And tonight, as we prepare ourselves once more to delve into the golden pages and extract the nectar-like charitra of Bhagavan Sri Ramchandra, let us firstly prepare ourselves for Katha as we join together in dhyan, in meditation. We sit most comfortably and we bring to our minds that most wondrous, beauteous form of Bhagavan Sri Ramchandra. He Ram, He Purushottam, He Deen Dayalu, O all merciful Lord, tonight as we come together in this beautiful Yagyashala, we do so with one common purpose, and that is to render unto you, O Prabhu, our prema, our bhakti, our love and devotions. Bless us this night to the successful completion of our devotions here this evening. And through divine blessings enable us to receive and to understand the wonderful lessons that you have enshrined for us within the pages of Ramayan Katha. And so as we focus our thoughts and energies in this manner, we now blend our voices together as we pay respects to Bhagavan in His manifold manifestations. श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। श्री गुरु चरण कमलेभ्यो नमो नमः। Lord Ganesh is described as Prathama Puja Devata. He is described as Vighaneshwar, first to be worshipped and honored, the remover of all obstacles and impediments. And indeed, when we invoke the blessings of Bhagwan Ganapati into our various undertakings, he blesses us with success and auspiciousness in what we do. Om Pranyamai Shirsha Devam Gauri Putram Vinayakam Bhaktavasam Smare Nityam Ayuhukam Arutasiddhaye Vidyarambhe vivahe cha praveshe nirgame tatha sangrame sankate chaiva vighnatasya vajayate. Devi Saraswati Mata is a goddess of knowledge and learning. Through the blessings of Vardayini Saraswati Mata, we will receive and understand tonight's divine Katha. We also pay our respects and salutations to Devi Saraswati Mata. Om Shweta Paramasanam Devim Shweta Pushpopashobhinim Shwetam Vardharam Nityam Shweta Gandhanulepanam. To Guru Devata, that Guru who imparts to us that very important Guru Mantra, who shows us that pathway of Bhakti Marga that leads us back into the safe and secure embrace of Maryada Purushottam. We also pay references to the lotus-like feet of Guruji. Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murti Puja Moolam Gurur Param Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam Moksha Moolam Gurur Param. Saraswati Mata is that incarnation of Mahalakshmi. Raja Kushdhvaj had performed tapasya to Lakshmi Devi for the birth of a child, and so she was born firstly as Virvati and then of course as Sita Mata. We also pay our respects to Jagat Janani Devi Sita Mata. अध्यांत रहते देवी आदि शक्ति महेश्वरी योग जय योग संभूते महालक्ष्मी नमस्तुते. ओम भद्रकाली नमो नित्यम सर्वे शक्ति स्वरूपिणी जगत स्थिते जगन्माता नारायणी नमस्तुते. Let us focus our thoughts on Sadashiv Bhagwan, he who brings delight to the hearts and the minds of his devotees. At his side is seated Devi Parvati Mata and Ganapati Baba. Swami Kartikeya is also there. We pay our salutations to Shankar Bhagwan. Nagendraharaya Trilochanaya भस्माङ्गरागाय महेश्वराय नित्याय शुद्धाय दिगम्बराय तस्मै नकाराय नमः शिवाय। To Ramdut Hanumanji, always at the forefront, always ready and willing to render assistance to Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. We also invoke the blessings of Hanumanji into our lives. Manujavang Marutatullaya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanadayutamukhyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prabhadhe. Neelambhujam Shamalakomalangam Sita Samaru Patibamabhagyam Panu Mahasayacharu Chapam Namami Ramam Raghuvansanatham. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Durga Rupena Samstita Namastasya 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 Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastasya 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 Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Rupena Samstita Namastasya 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 Namo Namah. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Let us firstly dedicate ourselves in this bhajan, glorifying Divine Mother in her various manifestations. Sarveshwari Jagadishwari. Of course, Divine Mother is known by many names. In this bhajan, she is glorified as Sarveshwari Jagadishwari Himatri Roop Maheshwari Mamatayi Mayi Karunamayi Himatri Roop Maheshwari. Have mercy upon us, O Mother. Accept us into your divine embrace. O Devi, as we safeguarded and sheltered your devotees at a time when Durgam, that terrible demon, had unleashed a reign of terror upon the Sant and the Sadhus and the Rishis and the Munis. This through your intervention, O Mother, that they were safeguarded against the wickedness and sinfulness of Durgam and Raktabij and a host of other Rakshasas. Sarveshwari Jagadishwari Sarveshwari Jagadishwari He Matri Roop Maheshwari Sarveshwari Jagadishwari Sarveshwari Jagadishwari He Matri Roop Maheshwari Mamtamayi Karunamayi Mamtamayi Karunamayi He Matri सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी जगजीवनी संजीवनी समस्त जीवनीश्वरी जगजीवनी संजीवनी समस्त जीवनीश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी जगतारिणी प्रतिपल भुवन विघ्नेश्वरी कृपालिनी जगतारिणी प्रतिपल भुवन विघ्नेश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहनी विश्वेश्वरी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहनी विश्वेश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी हे मातृभूत महेश्वरी So it is that same Divine Mother who has manifested, my dear friends, in the form of Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, and of course, Varadayini Mata Saraswati blesses us with that gift of knowledge and learning of musical talent and fluent speech. जय जय गौरीपति ब्रिजपति जय जय श्री गणेश नमो सरस्वती शारदा मंगल करो महेश नाथ बिकट बेर चाहू के वेद विकट नाथ बिकट बेर चाहू के वेद विकट जाबिकत परंबिकत जाबिकत परंबिकत अंतहु न पायुरी नातिकत वेर चाहू के वेद विकट गायंग में विकट विद्याधर में विकट हाँ गायंग में विकट विद्याधर में विकट योगी अगम जिन योग गुण पायुरी गायंग में विकट विद्याधर में विकट योगी अगम जिन योग गुण पायुरी विकति तु सरस्वती विकति बतायुरी विकति तु सरस्वती विकति बतायुरी सब गुण अन की हियन समायुरी विकट यंगोपाल विकट बीज पायुरी विकट यंगोपाल विकट बीज पायुरी विकटीय तान सेंज गायो विक गायोरी नाथ विकट वेद चाहू के वेद विकट गायंग में विकट विद्याधर में विकट हाँ गायंग में विकट विद्याधर में विकट योगी अजम दिन योग गुण पायुरी गायंग में विकट विद्याधर में विकट योगी अगम जिन योग गुण पायुरी विकति तो सरस्वती विकति बतायुरी विकति तु सरस्वती विकति बतायुरी सब गुण अन की हियन समायुरी विकट नयन गोपाल विकट बीज पायुरी विकट नयन गोपाल विकट बीज पायुरी विकटीय तान से जिगायो विक गायुरी नाथ विकट वेद चाहू के वेद विकट प्रेम से बोले श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय श्री देवी सरस्वती माता की जय And so devotees, we are continuing with our Katha from Laukush Kand. In last night's Katha, acting upon a report that came to him from one of his ministers of a certain situation that had developed where Dhobi and other members of a particular village had engaged in certain accusations against the king and the queen, Sri Ramchandra Devi Sita Mata. And he had even begun now to equate his own experience with his Dullahin, who had left his home for considerable time, and after returning to her marital home, he reacted in a very hostile manner to her return, and even equated this time that Sita Mata was held as a captive of Ravan in Lanka, and of course the fact that Sri Rama had accepted her, and he had said to his own wife that I am not as irresponsible as the king, Sri Ram, and I will not accept you back into this marital home. This report had reached the ears of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra, and he had asked Lakshman to take Sita Devi away from the palace out of Ayodhya and to leave her in the forested regions. And just before this actually happened, he had spoken to her privately. Sita, I have never asked anything of you, but today I ask that your asal roop, your true form, would leave this earthly planet Mrithyaloka, and you would return to your heavenly abode, O Siti, at this point in time, leaving behind only a shadow of yourself. Sita had accepted, and before she left, she had also asked, Prabhu, you have asked something of me, and today I shall also ask something of you. I ask for this opportunity, since I did not fully explore and take advantage of this opportunity during the 14 years of exile when we spent in the forest. My desire, O Prabhu, is to serve the rishis and munis. I ask for this opportunity that I would be in such a position, in such a place where this desire of mine would come to pass. And so, my dear friends, expressing this desire, Lakshman had taken Sita Devi and left her near the ashram of Valmiki Muni. And of course, Valmiki Muni found her. He welcomed her, saying to her, O Sita, you are mother of the universe. Your Pitaji Raja Janak is one of my shishyas, a very most illustrious and respectable king he is. And he took Sita Mata to his ashram, where she joined the fraternity of the other shishyas. The ashram of the gurus, my dear friends, at that time would have sometimes hundreds of individuals living. Even in today's modern day society, if you follow, for instance, Satguru, you know he has a huge ashram there. The number of people in that ashram may outnumber the number of people in the entire Rosha Road, Barakpur area. Thousands of people travel from all over the world where there's accommodation and, full amenities provided for the many, many thousands of individuals who would journey to the ashram of Satguru. And we're speaking of present-day India today. So this concept of the ashram, where those who follow the teachings of a particular guru would go there and stay there, and there used to be a time when you performed the Gurumukh Sanskar ceremony, the christening ceremony, you didn't remain at home. You left your home and you would go and stay in Gurukul at the ashram of the guru and study there with the guru. Gurukul does not exist anymore here in Trinidad. To a large extent, it still exists in India, where many individuals, thousands of individuals for that matter. And now we have a trend where many of your famous Hollywood actors leave Hollywood and journey to India and remain in the ashram of many of the gurus there, my dear friends, because they are being attracted by a certain philosophy, a certain lifestyle, a certain concept, my dear friends, of religious practice that they do not find where they are. And so it has become very fashionable now. I do not know to what extent they are truly immersed in the spirituality, but the mere fact that they live where they are and they journey to India, some may spend many, many months at a time in this ashram, speaks to something that, there is a certain lure, a certain attraction there, my dear friends, that is not being offered where they are in Hollywood and other places, in the United States. So this concept of the ashram we must understand. She goes to the ashram, Valmiki Muni's ashram, but there are also dozens of individuals there, perhaps more, my dear friends, and they welcome Sita Devi. Those who are mothers see that Sita Mata is an expectant mother herself. And this is the part that concerns, Lakshman and Bharat and Satrughan the most, where they try their very best to convince Sri Ram that this is not the best thing to do. Bhaiya Ram, at this point in time, this is a time when Sita Mata should remain in the palace and be taken care of by the queens and the other maids and servants of the palace. But he had declared to them, we have a responsibility not just to ourselves, but to our deceased father Raja Dashrath and the illustrious and honorable kings that came before them. We must not be swayed by personal emotions in making such a judgment, as difficult as this decision is. For For he himself, tears were flowing from his eyes. It is not that Sri Ram was stone-hearted or cruel. He felt, my dear friends, that the pangs of separation from his beloved companion. After returning from banishment, they spent many, many years together in peaceful coexistence before this tragic event took place. But you must understand, my dear friends, the lessons and legacy of Raj, my dear friends, is not simply to enjoy, as human beings would enjoy family life and the great thrills of human endeavor and experience and so on, but also, my dear friends, to teach us the lessons of life. And so he declares to his brothers who opposed, his move to send Sita Mata to the forest, our moral standards, he's saying to his brothers, should be so high that it would be totally unquestionable by anyone who comes after, that the lofty ideals of the Suryavanshi or the lineage of the Raghus would be left untainted by anything that we do at this stage. So our decisions, he's saying to his brothers, must be of that high standard. And so, my dear friends, Lakshman had left her there near the ashram of Valmiki Muni, and now she becomes integrated into this ashram life. Remember her desire? I want to serve in the ashram. And those who serve in the mandir, those who serve here at the Bluebirds Sports and Cultural Complex, those who serve when Yagna is being performed, they would tell you what a special joy and what a special happiness that is felt by serving. The more you give of yourself, the greater the happiness. The more you bring happiness to others, it simply multiplies the happiness that you experience. That may sound alien or very strange to those who are not involved in seva. And the only way you can experience that happiness, my dear friends, is when you actually become involved in seva. And when you come here in the morning, for those who are regularly involved in yagya exercises, they will understand that it's not just about the 2 hours in the night time. Very early the next morning, many of the members that you see sitting here would return, and they would begin to sweep and clean up, and prepare for the activities of the particular day that is at hand. They would begin to peel the talkari and prepare the food and so on, the bhojan for cooking. That tonight and over the past nights, we would come and sit and enjoy the delicious bhojan. The others who would come and prepare the parsad and the sweet rice and all the other dishes, delectable dishes that we enjoy from night to night. That is selflessness. They're not cooking to feed themselves alone, but to feed all of us. And that happiness is multiplied, my dear friends. The more people would come and partake of that delicious food and prasad and enjoy the ambience of this Yagyashala, that happiness is multiplied. This is what Sita Devi is yearning for. And this is why she had asked for that opportunity to serve in the ashram of the Rishis and Munis. So indeed, there she is in the ashram of Valmiki Muni, becoming fully integrated into ashram life. And ashram life, my dear friends, is just an extension. We do it for 7 nights. They do it for the entire year. And year upon year, they would continue the very same routine that we have here, preparing for puja on a daily basis, preparing for the reading of Katha on a daily basis, where communally they would prepare their meals and do all the other chores, my dear friends, that human beings are supposed to do. This is what she desired. And so, this expectant mother, Sita Mata, my dear friends, has now found herself in a place that she wants to be. Many people, when they listen to this Katha, they think of Sita Mata as being a victim or someone who has been treated very harshly, and by today's standards, we may perceive this as being so. Many people would think that Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra is simply overreacting and he did not really have to send her to the forest in the first place. But you must understand, my dear friends, that she too, as Mother of the Universe, is also teaching us certain valuable lessons of life. That ability to give of one's time and one's energy in the propagation of Dharma. That lesson of being selfless. Very importantly, my dear friends, every mother, every father becomes a selfless individual, where we put the needs of our family ahead of our own needs. So, that pregnancy is progressing, my dear friends, whilst in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. And indeed, the sons of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra will be born there in that most holy of places, Valmiki Ashram. सिर बाधेऊ भाई राजा घोरा तीन तुरंत तरु बाधेऊ सीताराम भजन सीताराम विचारण उरमर साचे राजा कसी कत्री प्राण हाथ धन तीरा सीताराम भजले समर हेतु उमंग फल धीरा राजा सुर सहस्त्र साथी है साथा सीताराम भजन सीताराम आप गए रघु कुल तुलनाथा राजा राम भजन सीताराम भजले राजा भजले सीताराम वीर बली है देखेऊ आई पत्र बधेऊ सिर बाधेऊ ढाई घोरातिन तुरंत तरु बाधेऊ नेकु विचारण उरमर साचिऊ. My dear friends, during that time of pregnancy, Sita Mata entertained no anger, no animosity or bitterness in whatever form or fashion towards Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. In that ashram of Valmiki Muni, she was always peaceful and calm and contented. On a daily basis, Valmiki Muni, and the Sankhya hour after puja and so on has been completed, would narrate a Ramayan Katha to Sita Devi and the many other Shishyas that stayed at his ashram in the forested regions. It is important, of course, we know that during that time of pregnancy, if the mother is prone to anger or to any of these high-strung emotions and so on, it can actually be passed on to the child. The child partakes in all that the mother eats and drinks, we know that. But my dear friends, also the emotions that she may be swayed by is also passed on to the child. And also what she is listening to on a daily basis, Tulsidas Maharaj describes, on a daily basis she is listening to Ramayan Katha. So that divine charitra, my dear friends, of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra is also being passed on to, of course we know twins, Love and Kush. Whilst yet in her womb, they are sharing and listening, my dear friends, to the glories of Ram Charitra Manas. So it's a lesson, for mothers and expectant mothers and so on, that the lesson of Sita Mata, despite sometimes there may be adverse circumstances in our lives. What do, my dear friends? We do not allow these adverse circumstances to overtake us and to overcome us and affect, who we are and what we do. And of course, my dear friends, in due course of time, Sita Devi, Mother of the Universe, gave birth to two beautiful boys, twin sons, Love and Kush. Prem se boliye Sita Mata ki jai. Undergoing, my dear friends, this period of pregnancy and delivering these two children in the ashram of Valmiki Muni, my dear friends, Sita Mata teaches by example that despite whatever adversities, we may face, we may encounter, still we put the needs of our children ahead of that of our own. And so as the two boys were born in the ashram of Valmiki Muni, they grew in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. At a young age, she asked that initiation ceremony, that Gurumukh Sanskar, should be performed by Valmiki Muni himself. She says to him, O Guruji, these are the sons of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. Of course, Valmiki Muni knew this. In due course of time, they may have to perform the functions of king, to govern their father's kingdom sometime in the future. I want that you should teach them, O Guruji, the Vedas and the Puranas, all the religious doctrines, but also, O Guruji, teach them the art of governance. So she prepares her sons, my dear friends, for a life not just there in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. But first she says to them, teach, O Guruji, teach them the Vedas, the Puranas, the Shastras, Ramayan Katha and so on. But also, after the religious doctrines, also teach them political philosophy, as they themselves would become rulers and kings in due course of time. Valmiki Muni summarizes, my dear friends, in 14 lines. Of course, the volume of literature that you would have taught to the two boys is, we cannot even expect to cover it even in 7 nights. But essentially, 14 failings or failures of a ruler or an individual. And it's very important that we look at these 14. So we cannot look at all the philosophy in its entirety, but we summarize in these 14 lines. So he says, he captions it as 14 failures of a king. But these can also be attributed, my dear friends, and applied in our own personal lives as well. First, he says, we must have respect for our ancestors. We must honor our ancestors. You know, when Sri Ram and Lakshman were approaching the Rishimukh Parvat, Sugriv had sent Hanumanji in the disguise of a brahmachar. Perhaps they are spies that my brother Bali has sent to find out where I'm hiding. O Hanumanji, identify who these two individuals are for me. And so Hanumanji in the disguise of a brahman and approached them, and he had asked, Koto mashyama lagaur sharira chatri rupa pirahupa nabira. Kathina bhumi komal paragami kavana hetu bicharahu banaswami. Who are you two? He had asked them. You are roaming in these forests all by yourself. Tell me, what is your purpose here? Although you appear to be the very embodiment of Narayan, which is Vishnu Bhagwan. And in response to that question, who are you? Sri Ram had responded that we are the sons of Raja Dashrath. Now that's a very simple question. If I ask, who are you? You would respond and say, well, my name is Randy, or my name is Ashton, or my name is Terry, as the case may be, isn't it? But he does not do this. He doesn't say, my name is Ram and this is my brother Lakshman. He says, we are the sons of the great and illustrious king, Raja Dashrath. And the very first philosophy that Valmiki Muni taught to the sons of Sri Ram, Love and Kush, respect your ancestors, honor your ancestors. In fact, in Hinduism, this is so profound that we have 2 weeks, an entire fortnight set aside every year simply for honoring the ancestors. Of course, that is Pitra Paksh. Secondly, Love and Kush, be truthful at all times. Satyam is one of the pillars of Sanatan Dharma. Their grandfather Raja Dashrath lived by this creed. Raghukul riti sada chalyayi pran jayi par vachan na jayi. I prefer to die, to give up this life, than for my words to be false. Third, control your anger. One person said to me, Baba, whenever I see this person, I get angry. My blood is beginning to boil, as we say commonly. Is that a good thing, my dear friends? You know what that implies? That implies that person has so much control and leverage over you. Simply presenting themselves in your presence causes you to become angry. Nothing, no one should be able to get you angry in this manner. If you are fully and totally in control of your emotions, my dear friends, no one would get you angry in this way. Anger debilitates your bhakti, your devotion. It is the greatest enemy, my dear friends, in the pathway of a bhakta, a devotee, trying to reach to the feet of Bhagwan. And of course, in the life of a king such as Ravan, who was always prone to anger, we see how his own anger, my dear friends, eventually brought about his own destruction. Fourth, never neglect your kingly duties. A king obviously has many duties that he would perform towards his citizens, the running, the governance of that kingdom or that country. Understand what these duties are and discharge these. And similarly, never forget your personal duties. So we are not kings, obviously, but we have certain duties that are assigned to us. So a father must know what duties are given to him. A mother should understand her duties. A husband, a wife should understand theirs. The children should understand theirs. And if each person understands what his duties are and discharges his duties efficiently, my dear friends, that household would function smoothly. But obviously, If the husband fails, if the father fails, if the wife or the mother fails in their duties, then of course there will be upheaval in the home. But your duties are not just family oriented. Understand your duties as a Hindu. This is why we say the 14 failures of a king are also, my dear friends, very much applicable in our own lives as well. It is not just for governance. So do not neglect your duties as a Hindu or in any other capacity in which you function. Fifth, procrastination. This is something that sometimes we are all subjected to do. What we must do today, we say no, tomorrow, no, next week, next month, next year. Sometimes it never gets done. What must be done today, my dear friends? Do not shelve it for tomorrow. Act upon it with haste. Everyone has 24 hours, you know. It's what you do with your 24 hours that makes the difference. Some people maximize their 24 hours, and some people spend the 24 hours, the fingers are working on the tablet, sitting in front of the TV screen perhaps, lying on the couch, spending the time on the hammock. So who is going to move ahead, my dear friends? Make best use of your time. Never procrastinate. Never shun the advice of the holy men, O love and Kush. Sri Ram had said to Bharat, it is better you take advice from one knowledgeable person than from 100 foolish people, because they will get you more confused than you were in the beginning. Accept the advice of the holy men. And this is why, my dear friends, before we embark upon anything new, we normally call the guru, we call the Pundit. Consultation and seeking a good date and so on auspicious date to begin whatever, we're about to do has become, one of the practices, has always been one of the practices in Hinduism. Seventh, love and Kush, shun laziness. Again, it's a human illness. We all tend to, get into the lazy zone from time to time. But of course, my dear friends, a lazy person tends to be a low achiever. That person who sheds the desire to be lazy, my dear friends, and is driven to success by his own, self-motivation and enthusiasm and so on, obviously gets to where he needs to be. The eighth, now each of these, in motivational speeches and so on, you can spend entire days speaking on each one of these, but for our purposes, of course, we just mention and of course expand slightly on each one due to time constraints. So each of these that Valmiki Muni is outlining to Love and Kush, my dear friends, are very important and very integral to all of us. 8, be in control of your 5 senses. Be their master. They are not supposed to be your master. And there are very simple ways in which we can detect this, You have an event coming up, you have puja coming up at your home, you have yagna coming up your mandir, you have Krishna Janam coming up, you have Ganesh Utsav coming up. I went to one home, so the Dulahin alone is coming to the Bedi to sit down for the puja. And so I asked, you alone sitting down? The Dulaha says, Baba, I'll tell you the reason after the puja. So after the puja, as I'm about to leave, he says, Baba, look, I meet a good friend. I was fasting for the puja, but I haven't seen for years. He lives in England, and he comes back after, I can't remember, maybe 10 or 15 years is the case maybe. And he asked me to take a drink with him. And I did. That's when your senses are your master. We are supposed to be the master of our senses. And there are many things you can drink, my dear friends. And if the only way you can seal a friendship is with alcohol, perhaps you need to look at your friends. So you could drink a supplicant, You can drink something non-alcoholic. So these excuses, my dear friends, sometimes only satisfy the person who is making it and not the person who is listening to it, because it simply does not make any sense at all. So we are supposed to be in control of our 5 senses. 9th, devote your thoughts to the affairs of the kingdom. At all times, be absorbed, love and kush, in the governance of your kingdom. So that's the advice for the king. The advice for the householder. Be absorbed, householder, in the running of your home at all time. Pay particular attention to what is happening in your home. Sometimes things happen in our home and we are unaware of it. We may hear of it outside the home before we hear about it inside the home. 10. Well, this connects with what we have discussed earlier. Do not take advice or counsel from those with perverted thoughts and judgments, for they are simply going to lead you astray. 11th, failure to launch projects that you have already decided upon. So that is applicable at the state level or the kingdom. It is also applicable to us as individuals, because each person has a number of ideas or events or projects that they would like to accomplish during the course of the year or during the course of the month. For instance, at the beginning of the year, many people make what are called New Year resolutions. And it is said by the 3rd month of the year, 7 out of 10 people, 70% of those who make those resolutions give up on those resolutions by the 3rd month. So the person who wanted to lose weight, he starts off, yes, but by the month of March, he forgets about the resolution to lose weight. The fellow who wanted to stop smoking or to stop drinking alcohol, he starts off, yes, very good at the beginning of the year, but by the 3rd month, he goes back or reverts to his normal behavior. You must be trustworthy, love and kush. The people around you must have faith and belief in you and what you stand for. That is the 12th advice that Valmiki Muni is giving to the young princes, love and kush. 13th, ensure that you pray every day and before every undertaking. This is very basic. We all know this. We all know that we're supposed to be doing this on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean that you have to sit down and perform a whole puja, my dear friends. We know with the work, with the home, with the family, with the children, and the multiple chores that we have, sometimes we simply do not have the time to sit down for a lengthy puja. Simple. If you take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you offer the lota of jal, you light your diya, you offer your flowers, you say even 1 mantra. This is going to suffice, even whilst you're on the way to work. Now YouTube has all the beautiful mantras and everything that we can YouTube and listen, my dear friends, and chant along as we are on our way to wherever we may be going. And the 14th, always have a belief in God. Do not be an atheist, my dear friends. Valmiki Muni, from a young age, begins to instill in the lives of love and kush this wonderful advice. So whilst all is going well in the ashram with Sita Devi, her 2 young sons, Love and Kush, who are being taught well by the Guru, Valmiki Muni. In Ayodhya, Sri Ram is getting prepared to perform what is called the Ashwamedh Yagna. We shall find out, my dear friends, what this Yagna is and how ultimately, it involves his two sons, Lava and Kush. नहीं तब तनु बल पौरुष भाई साधव पत्र बाची गृह जाई जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai
सिनुरी पुहन तक वीरा न जानी सुनीरी पुहन तक वीरा न जानी कहु अस्त्र अस कही मुस्कानी बोल जय राम श्री राम प्रचारक नृप बल भारी दर्शय सिंह बजाए तारी जय राम श्री राम अस कही धनुष बाण कर लीन्हे अस कही धनुष बाण कर लीन्हे मुनि पर विनय शरण चित दीन्हे बोल जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम हम ही प्रचारत नृप बल भारी दर्श ही सिंह बजाये तारी अस कही धनुष बाण कर लीन्हे मुनिवर विनय चरण चित दीन्हे. Sri Ram consults with the Guru and they decide to perform the Ashwamedh Yagna. A king, perhaps when he reaches or ascends to the pinnacle of his power, would normally perform the Ashwamedh Yagna. In this Ashwamedh Yagna, apart from all the normal puja and so on associated with a Yagna, and the reading of Katha and so on, that takes place in a Yagna, a horse, and in this case, a beautiful white horse was found, decorated with the emblems of Ayodhya. You know, every sovereign nation has certain emblems. For instance, here in Trinidad, we have the national emblems, the cocorico, the birds and so on. These are national emblems. And wherever you go, you see the red, white, and black flag. You know that's Trinidad. You see the national birds and so on. That is identified with your nation. So Ayodhya also has certain emblems. So in the process of performing the yagya, this horse is decorated with emblems of that nation, of that kingdom. And anyone, if you desire, if you feel you're good enough to challenge the king who is performing this Ashwamedh Yagya, then you would seize the horse. You would take control of the horse. So this horse was decorated in this manner. It was released from Ayodhya. And wherever the horse went and people would see that it belonged to the king of Ayodhya, they would simply allow this horse to roam free. Everyone was aware of the might of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. He had grown to be very powerful, my dear friends. And they simply allowed. No one was brave enough, courageous enough, found that they were good enough to stand up in battle to Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. Until, my dear friends, the horse roamed into that part of the forest near the ashram of Valmiki Muni, and whose eyes fell upon this horse? Love and Kush. Immediately they seized hold of the horse. They understood fully well. They knew what it implied, my dear friends. That taking control of this horse meant that this was a challenge to the king who was performing the Ashwamedh Yagya. Bear in mind, at that point in time, they were never told that their father was the king of Ayodhya. They knew of the king. They heard of the king. Valmiki Muni would read the glories of Sri Ram, but neither did their mother, Sita Devi, or Valmiki Muni divulged to them that their father was Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. And so, fearlessly, courageously, at this time, the boys, Love and Kush, were just around 16 years old. So valiantly they seized the horse, and the king would normally have his people following up to see if there was a challenge on the horizon. And Satruhan, my dear friends, was the one, together with many of the soldiers in his battalion, they were following. And so when they saw that these two young boys, these youths, had seized the horse, at first Satruhan said to them, "This must be a mistake. Surely you cannot be serious about posing a challenge to the king. Listen," he says to them, speaking in a very amiable manner, "release this horse and return to your mother unharmed and unhurt." And in turn, they said, "Look at this mighty king." Love and Kush are speaking back now to Satruhan. "Look at this mighty king who is defiantly speaking down to us. Do you think you can frighten a lion simply by clapping your hand? Well, if there's a little kitten or dog and you clap your hand, certainly they would run away, isn't it?" So in other words, they are speaking people would, in Trinidad slang, they're speaking big talk, they're talking up themselves. Do you think, they're saying to Satruhan, you can frighten a lion? So of course they are equating themselves to the strength and courage and ferocity of a lion. A lion cannot be frightened by simply clapping your hands. And when they spoke in this manner, Satruhan says to them, "Then bring forth your weapons. If you speak in this manner, you speak so bravely, then bring forth your weapons." And my dear friends, a fierce battle ensued. In fact, from this point on, a series of battles are going to ensue. For first, the fight against Satruhan and his quadrant of soldiers. Now, Tulsidas is describing the weaponry of Love and Kush, that as they would draw their bow, now this is no ordinary bow, The weapons of Love and Kush are similar to which Arjuna used in Mahabharata war. The bow that Arjuna used in Mahabharata, my dear friends, was as tall as a palm tree. That is as much as 8 meters in height. So this is no little bow and arrow that they would shoot one arrow at a time. For Tulsidas, she is describing that with one draw of the bow, a volley of arrows flew at the soldiers of Shatrughan, cutting them down immediately. So in other words, what is being described to us is, if you're following the war, there's a war going on right now between Ukraine and Russia. And there's something called a multiple rocket launcher. So there used to be a time they would shoot one rocket at a time. If you're following the war, there's something called a multiple rocket launcher, where multiple rockets, my dear friends, would be discharged at its target at the same moment. So listen to the description of Tulsidas Maharaj. With one draw of the bow, a volley of arrows, not one arrow, a volley of arrows is flying forth towards the army, the battalion of Shatrughan, cutting down the soldiers in one instant. My dear friends, in a flash, in a very short space of time, Shatrughan and his battalion were defeated. And some of the soldiers went back to Ayodhya and reported this to Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra, and he, felt confused and distressed that 2 youths, this is what they said to him, 2 youths could have defeated a stalwart such as Shatrughan. And so, my dear friends, he sent forth Lakshman as well. When he saw the youths, he says to them, return to your mother. I do not wish to fight with you. And again, my dear friends, they spoke up, very expressing themselves very vociferously and fiercely, and the battle continued. Lakshman fought against them, but Kush used one of the missiles, and the name of this missile is Mohan. This was blessed by Brahma and Vishnu and Mahadev. And this missile, my dear friends, so the different astra, the astra means weapons, and each of them, there's the Agni astra, and that means it's the weapon of fire, and this one, the Mohan, falls under the category of the Agni astra. It's a weapon, my dear friends, of fire. When Sri Ram, just backtracking a little bit to give you an idea that Sri Ram also utilized similar weapons to this, when Sri Ram before he built the bridge to go to Lanka, he was advised to call upon Sagar, and Sagar would assist him in building this bridge. And it is said for 3 days and 3 nights he stood at the ocean and called out to Sagar, but Sagar did not respond. And then he took a missile from his arsenal and he shot it at the water. And as that missile sped across the water, it instantly began to evaporate the waters of the ocean as it spread across the ocean. What type of weapon would do this? There was a time when people say, no such weapon exists. In fact, there are weapons today, just like what is described in the pages of Ramcharitamanas. There are certain compounds and certain elements that are used in modern day weapons, my dear friends, and I'm giving you this so that you would understand what you read here in Ramcharitamanas is sometimes only now being discovered by the Western world. What Tulsidas has written for many, many thousands of years now, when at a time people say, no, this thing cannot happen. How can one missile evaporate water instantaneously? And now we know there's something called enriched uranium, my dear friends, that can do precisely that. Not only can it, evaporate water, everything in its pathway, including human beings, my dear friends, destroys instantly. And perhaps at no time than now we are perhaps, facing a certain situation, if it is not handled properly, we may be very well headed in a very dangerous direction in terms of the types of warfare and so on that is being contemplated. So this Astra, the Mohan Astra, was unleashed against Lakshman and his army, and my dear friends, they suffered the same fate of Satruhan and his army. When Sri Ram learnt of this, he then asked Bharat, and Bharat left with very powerful soldiers, Jamavant, Hanuman, Swami, Angad, and others in his entourage to face the same two youths, Love and Kush, my dear friends, who stood there, and continued this aggressive battle against the army of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. What is accountable for their powers? Well, firstly, they are the sons of Sri Ramchandra. And secondly, my dear friends, the Guru Valmiki Muni had taught them well. And these lessons, my dear friends, they learned from a young age. Their mother, Sita Mata, had requested the Guru. They are the sons of Sri Ram. In due course of time, they may have to govern after their father. They should be taught the art of defense and warfare as well. For in those days, in a time of war, the king did not sit in his kingdom, in his palace, but he was at the front line of defense. He fought alongside his soldiers to defend his kingdom and his people. And so, my dear friends, Bharat as well was struck by Love and Kush. His soldiers were decimated in battle. Tulsidas gives a very gripping, detailed account, colorful account of this battle, which we do not have the time to go into, my dear friends. The use of all the weapons, and who was struck and who fell upon the ground unconscious and who died upon the battlefield. But my dear friends, there's a certain common thread that is running through all of the battles. Love and Kush continues to prevail against each battalion of Sri Ram's army, led by his brothers Satruhan, Lakshman, Bharat, and even the valiant warriors, my dear friends. In fact, Tulsidas describes for us that even Hanumanji and Jamavant, when they were struck by the missiles of Love and Kush, they proceeded to tie them, they bound them, and they held them as prisoners of war. And so when this news came to Sri Ram, he himself left the palace. And when he saw these two gallant youths, he dropped his weapons and he motioned to them, come nearer, I want to speak to you. First, he says, tell me your parents' names. The village that you belong to, the kingdom that you belong to. You have defeated, he's speaking now to Love and Kush. He does not know that these are his sons, nor do his sons know that they are looking and speaking at their father. You have defeated some of my most powerful warriors. Tell me the name of your parents, tell me the village and the kingdom from which you originate. And they respond, it is cowardly to speak on the battlefield like this. You are engaging, they are speaking to Sri Ram, their father, you are engaging in idle gossip when a battle is supposed to be fought. This is a manifestation and the actions of a coward. We did not come to this battlefield to talk. We came to this battlefield to fight. And Sri Ram responded very calmly, I will not strike without knowing the names of your parents and your lineage. So he's insistent upon this. Whilst they are, sometimes when people are youthful, they tend to be aggressive and belligerent. You speak to the youths, they speak in a very belligerent manner, So he is rather restrained whilst they are saying to him, look, when we come here, we didn't come to engage in idle gossip. Let us fight. He says, no, I will not fight. I will not strike you without knowing your lineage. And so they say to him, our mother is Sita, the daughter of Raja Janak. We were born here. This is our village. We were born in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. But we do not know our father's ancestry. It is unknown who is our father. But we respect and honor Valmiki Muni as a guru. When he heard these words, Sri Ram turned away, my dear friends. What was he to say? What was he to do? He turned away, my dear friends, and went back to his chariot. There he sat, whilst some of the other soldiers, came forward and continued that battle. But it did not last too long after that. Love and Kush, my dear friends, now took some of their captives, including Hanuman Swami and Jamavant, and placed them in one of the chariots that were there. Also, they took many of the jewels and so on that had fallen on the battlefield and placed them in that chariot, and now returned. मन बच क्रम बिना भगवाना सपने हूँ पुरुषन जानव आना मन बच क्रम बिना भगवाना सपने हूँ पुरुषन जानव आना जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम तो धरनी माता सुन लीजिए निज महथोर मोही अब मन की जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम जब सीता असी गिरा उचारी बिरधि भूमि शब्द पाधारी जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम जब सीता सी गिरा उचारी जब सीता असी गिरा उचारी बिरधि भूमि शब्द आधारी जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम मन बच क्रम बिना भगवाना सपने हूँ पुरुष न जानो आना. If ever, O mother, in thought, word, and deed, or even in a dream, I have permitted myself to dwell on any other person than my Lord Sri Ram, then, O Mother, let me abide in your lap. What did he ask for? A purity test. But this is the second time he had asked for this purity test. After the battle had come to an end between himself and Sri Ram, Sita Mata acceded to the purity test. She went into the fire. She came out of the fire unburnt, unharmed. And he has asked once more for the purity test. And so she calls upon Mother Earth, Dhariti Mata. Remember, my dear friends, how did she come into this world? She came out of the earth. Raja Janak was plowing the fields in Mithila, and he found that beautiful baby girl in the furrows of the soil where he was plowing. And when she calls upon Mother Earth, if ever in thought, word, and deed, or even in a dream, O Mother, I have permitted myself to look upon any other than my Lord, let me abide in your lap. As she uttered these words, a deafening sound was heard as the earth opened up and an impeccably beautiful chariot, a throne, appeared. It was supported by the 1,000-headed Sheshnag. And Dharti Mata spoke. O daughter, you have suffered greatly. Come now into my embrace and enjoy the beauty and the peace and the tranquility, the hospitality that I have to offer you. And so Sita Mata, my dear friend, sat upon that beautiful throne, supported by Sheshnag, and this throne, including Sita Mata and Sheshnag, disappeared into the earth, and that crater that was created, my dear friends, as the earth opened up to bring forth this throne, once more was covered over and sealed as though nothing was there before. Sri Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Satruhan, Hanumanji, and all who were there were utterly dumbfounded and amazed, my dear friends. With tears streaming from their eyes, they rushed forth to that part of the earth, placing their hands upon the earth, not believing that they had witnessed such a miracle and such a marvel. Obviously, this kept them dumbfounded. They could not speak, they could not react for several moments, my dear friends. And eventually, Valmiki Muni presented the sons, Lava and Kush, to their father. Sri Ram clasped the two boys to his bosom, to his chest. My dear friends, in this tearful manner, they proceeded back to Ayodhya. आदमी मुसाफिर है, आता है जाता है, आते जाते रास्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है. My dear friends, if it happens to Divine Mother, everyone, human or the celestial, the divine, has a certain time, a certain allotment mandated and given to us. In the case of Sita Mata, it was her time to return from where she originated into the earth. And in tomorrow's night's Katha, we shall read that the time of Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra came to an end as well. We have something in common with them, my dear friends. Whomever is born must die. We all go through the very same journey. आदमी मुसाफिर है, आता है जाता है, आते जाते रास्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है. आता है जाता है, आते जाते रास्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है। ज़ोंका हवा का पानी करेला, ज़ोंका हवा का पानी करेला, मेले में रह जाए जो अकेला, मेले में रह जाए जो अकेला, फिर वो अकेला ही रह जाता है। आदमी मुसाफिर है, आता है जाता है, आते जाते रास्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है। कब छोड़ता है ये रोग जी को, कब छोड़ता है ये रोग जी को, दिल भूल जाता है जब किसी को, दिल भूल जाता है जब किसी को, वो भूला कर भी याद आता है। आदमी मुसाफिर है, आता है जाता है, आते जाते रास्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है। क्या साथ लाए क्या तोड़ आए, क्या साथ लाए क्या तोड़ आए, रास्ते में हम क्या क्या छोड़ आए, रास्ते में हम क्या क्या छोड़ आए। मंजिल पे जाके याद आता है, आदमी मुसाफिर है, आता है जाता है, आते जाते रास्ते में यादें छोड़ जाता है, यादें छोड़ जाता है, यादें छोड़ जाता है। प्रेम से बोले सीतापति रामचंद्र की जय। In our midst this evening is Pundit Vinayak Prasad. Pandit Vinayak Prasad is the son of Pandit Balram Prasad of Arangwes and my son-in-law. We'll ask Pandit Vinayak Prasad to give his blessings to this Yagna to say a few words at this point in time before we go on to Ramayan Arati.
Officiating Vyas, Pandit Rajendra, Pandits Vasudev, Vinayak, devotees, Sita. After an excellent Katha like that, Panditji, I won't say much, but one thing. First of all, commendations and blessings to you, members, devotees, members of the community, devotees of God. After this 2 years of COVID, the blow that we got when it comes to temple, pujas, yagyas, it's very refreshing to come back to see so much of people in the audience, so much of support for a 7 nights yag. You know, I've been speaking amongst my brothers-in-law, my father-in-law, and who are actually talking and saying, you know, is it possible again for a 7 nights, a 5 nights, a 3 nights, and so on for it to reoccur and happen again? Because I know a lot of people, they took a break from temple and from doing what they have to do. And like in the Katha, no matter what your circumstances are, you must continue to do and uphold dharma. And you have done exactly that. Despite the situation, you came out in your numbers, you've put your finances together, you've come out and supported no matter in whether it's through seva or service or through your finances, and you've done excellent. From the preparation to the Bedi Puja, the reading, everything was so up to mark, and commendations to you. And I hope and pray that Bhagwan bless you, your family, and also the community for such great work. So I ask of you now to please clasp your hands, close your eyes, and think of Prabhu Sri Ram as we say this simple but effective and blessed prayer. Om Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunataya Nataya Sitaya Pate Nama. Om Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bole Shri Siyapati Ramachandra ki Jai.
Thank you, Pundit Ji, for being here tonight and, of course, bringing along your Dulhin, my daughter, and, of course, my granddaughter to be part of the 6th night of this Ramayan Yajna. At this point in time, Khara ho jaye, let us all stand and switch on together in Ramayan Arati. Shri Ramayan Ji ki kirati kal vikasiya ki
Arati Shri Ramayan Ji ki kirati kal
Bhagat Brahma Dikamuni Narad Valmika Vidyana Vishadar Sukh San Adi Sesha Aurshadar Varni Pavan Sukha Kirati
Arati Shri
गावत बेरा पुराण दस छवो शास्त्र सब बंधन को रस मुनि जन धन संतन को सरवस सार अंश सम्मत सब
Arati Shri Ramayan
शंभु भवानी अद्भुत संभाव मुनि विज्ञानी व्यास आदि कवि पुंग बखानी काठ सुंदर करुणते नीति
आरती श्री
रसपीति सुभग सिंगार मुक्ति युवती की हरणी रोग भवमूरी नमीति तात मात सब तुलसी की
आरती श्री
अयोध्यावासी राम 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 दशरथ नंदन राम
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 पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम
पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम
जय जय राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
जय जय राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
सीता राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
सीता राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
बोल अयोध्यावासी राम 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 दशरथ नंदन राम
अयोध्यावासी राम 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 दशरथ नंदन राम
पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम
पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम
जय जय राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
जय जय राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
सीता राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
सीता राम 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 बोलो राम राम राम
जय जय राम राम राम
जय जय राम राम राम
सीता राम 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 जय जय राम 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 This brings us to an end of our devotions here tonight. Let us all bow our heads in this final prayer. We give thanks to that Supreme Paramatma Bhagwan Sri Ramchandra. We share your blessings, O Prabhu. We have come together in the sixth night of devotion in this Ramayan Yagna. With your blessings, O Lord, will return tomorrow for the final night, the culmination of the 7 nights of devotion. We pray this night that you would accept us into your divine embrace. May you, O Lord, continue to safeguard us and shelter us against the many dangers and difficulties that surrounds us. Mantrahinam kriyahinam bhaktihinam janadhanam yappujitam maya devam paripurnam tadastu Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्याद्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरि ओम्। प्रेम से बोले श्री गजानन स्वामी की, उमापति महादेव की, पवन सुत हनुमान की, श्री वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की, उदय सा जगन्नाथ की, बोलो भाई सब संतन की, सियापति रामचंद्र की। Let us energize this Yagyashala, my dear friends, in a louder tone of voice. Shri Satya Sanatan Dharma ki Jai Jai Sitaram. Asan लीजिए, kindly be seated, devotees. You'll receive your arati, panchamrit, and prasad where you are. Of course, bhojan has been provided for you. Please partake of these before departing to respective abodes. May you have a safe journey home as we return tomorrow for the final night of this Yagna.
मेरे राम मेरे राम मेरे राम मेरे राम मेरे मन में है राम मेरे तन में है राम मेरे रोम रोम समाये राम है मेरे सांसों में तेरा ही
जागती रे द्वारे हर संकट में विघ्न विकट में हर संकट में विघ्न विकट में आओ काम की हाराओ स्वामी आओ काम की हारा जैसे नैनों में तुम जागो मेरे दिल मेरे हृदय में तेरे नाम है मेरे सांसों में तेरा ही नाम है ओ मेरे सांसों में तेरा ही नाम है मेरे राम मेरे राम मेरे मन में है राम मेरे तन में है राम मेरे रोम रोम में समायो राम है मेरे सांसों में तेरा ही नाम है ओ मेरे सांसों में तेरा ही नाम है मेरे राम मेरे राम
Sankhya Television is not only the first Hindu TV station in Trinidad and